ومريم ابنة عمران التي أحصنت فرجها فنفخنا فيه من روحنا وصدقت بكلمات ربها وكتبه وكانت من القانتين.
In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful, we beseech Him in His infinite mercy to send His blessings on the noblest of mankind, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his household, and those who thread his path till the day of resurrection. Welcome again to another edition of your program, our program, The Virtuous Woman. I am Bushra Olaguju, and I'm going to be your host as usual. On the session today, we are going to be discussing a topic you cannot imagine. I'm sure the moment I said it, it just echoed in your mind like, we can't imagine the topic. Yes, you can't. Because I'm sure there are some of you that probably feels that Islam is silent about some issue. Islam will not just recognize some things. We're going to discuss one of such topics today. Today on the program, we're going to be discussing sales of human organs. Yes, you heard what I said. Sales of human organ. And I have a voice you're familiar with in the studio. She's going to do justice to that topic. But before we go on, join me.
إن المسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات والقانتين والقانتات والصادقين والصادقات والصابرين والصابرات والخاشعين والخاشعات والمتصدقين والمتصدقات والصائمين والصائمات والحافظين فروجهم والحافظات والذاكرين الله كثيرا والذاكرات أعد الله لهم مغفرة وأجرا عظيما.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome aboard. It's still the program, The Virtuous Woman. And like I introduced before, we have our lecturer in the house. She's going to be taking care of the topic, sales of human organs. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome aboard. How is the family and how is work? Alhamdulillah. Hadia Kudra Mahmoud, thank you for always coming around whenever we need you. We really appreciate it. Today we are talking about a very sensitive issue. I'm not sure I'm so versed when it comes to this aspect. I really want to learn a lot. And I'm sure viewers at home also want to do the same. They really want to be educated. There's this thought that Muslims are just majorly concerned about preaching on salat, fasting, sincerity. Today the topic is a bit different, sales of human organ. Why are we discussing it? Does Islam has a space for that in the curriculum at all?
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wassalatu wassalam ala ashrafil mursalin Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa sallim. All praise is due to Allah. May His peace and blessings be on the noble Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his household, companions, and all those who follow him till the day of judgment.
Amen.
On the sales of human organ is one of the contemporary issues in Islamic jurisprudence known as fiqh nawazi. These are issues that are relatively new in our society, things that was not so common before now.
That's true.
So sales of human organ is one of such issues. There are so many other issues like organ donation, organ transplant. The scholars in Islam are interested as these issues arise to bring up fatwa, to bring up the ruling that should be for such issues. So the Islamic Fiqh Council, at one of its conference, deliberated on this issue of sales of human organ, donation of organ transplant, at a conference held in Saudi Arabia in 1988, and they brought up some rulings regarding them. According to this Islamic Fiqh Council, they defined organ as any part of a person, be it tissue, cell, or blood. Any parts of a human being at all is what can be termed as organ. For organ transplant, it is allowed, and so also donation of organ to save life, to make somebody remain alive. One can decide to donate an organ that is necessary for that person being alive. It is allowed. Then the same thing goes for organ transplant. This is also allowed based on certain conditions. But as for the sales of human organ, it is totally forbidden to sell any part of a human being, because human being is not an animal, nor is it a chicken that you can easily buy in the market. So Islam forbids outrightly that we should sell any part of a human being. Even in the case of transplant and donation, you are not expected to sell it. You donate it, give it out as a charity, and it's purposely to save the life of the beneficiary, or to keep some basic body functioning processes working in such a person's body. Now, as for transplant that is allowed, I mentioned the other time that there are rulings surrounding it. One of it is, according to what came up from that conference, that it is permissible to transplant organ from one place in a person's body to another place. But one must ensure that the benefits that will come out of such transplant will outweigh the harm, will outweigh any possible harm. That's the first ruling. Another ruling is that when you transplant from body of one person to the body of another, that is another person, if it is an organ that renews itself automatically, like the skin and the blood, that you can transplant from the person of one individual to another individual, provided it is something that can renew itself automatically. Then another condition is that it is permissible to make use of organs that have been taken from another person due to sickness. For example, maybe the cornea from the eye of a sick person. It is permissible to transfer it to another person that needs such organ. Maybe it is removed from one person due to sickness. Then another person is in need of it. If the cornea is viable, it can be used by another person that actually needs it. Then another ruling is that it is haram to transplant an organ on which life depends. A very good example is the heart. One cannot decide to say, I want to transplant, I want to give out my heart or my liver, because they are major functioning organs in our body.
How about the kidney? How about the kidney?
The kidney can be given out, because it is not just a single organ. It is double. and so also some other organs like the lung. But in the case of the heart and the liver, you can't decide to say you want to, because giving it out, donating it amounts to terminating your life. Unlike the kidney, research has shown that when the two kidneys are viable, they are strong, you can, if you wish, you can decide to donate one for somebody that needs it to survive, that the remaining one can still function
in
properly.
place of the two.
In
It won't have any side effects.
Unlike the case of the heart, if it is the heart, then it is not possible that you donate the heart and yet your body still function properly. It means total extinction somehow, because when you donate your heart, it means
the end of life.
That's the end of life.
Okay, because I don't want to interrupt you again. I'm sure our viewers at home are really enjoying the way you're putting it up to them one after the other. I just want to ask, you mentioned that the conference that was held at Saudi Arabia was in 1988, if I get that very correctly. Does it mean that the sales of human organ has been in existence as far back as that? Then secondly, you've been saying these rulings, they are really applying to someone who is still alive. Does it mean that Islam permits us to sell the parts of someone who is dead? Because you're saying, okay, if the person is alive. How about if the person is dead and they feel that, okay, all these things by just going to a waste, we might probably take some of them and sell?
Now, if somebody is dead, parts of his body can still be donated to another person that needs it, on the condition that the third person gives his permission before his death. Yes.
Okay.
Or his heirs, his offsprings, give their permission that, okay, this organ from our father's body, we want to donate it. It is allowed. Okay. On those two conditions. It is even said that if the authority, authority in charge of such area gives permission for such organ to be used based on maybe what they've heard from the deceased before his death, that we can make use of a dead person organ.
But not selling it.
Not selling. Selling is totally, absolutely forbidden.
In Islam.
It is not allowed for us to sell human parts as we sell meat or as we sell fish in the market. It is not allowed. Now, on the sales of human organ, coming to the sales of human organ, which is forbidden and which is now taking its root in our society, because it's not only in Nigeria that this happens. It happens all over the world, that people decide to sell human beings, sometimes only as a whole person, sometimes in parts, for one purpose or the other. It happens all over the world. But it's becoming too alarming in this part of the world presently, that is in Nigeria. A lot of our people indulge in these absurd acts because they feel they are in poverty, and they feel they can make a way out by engaging in such acts. A lot of them give excuses of poverty. Some of them are added criminals. They are fully engrossed in criminal acts. Their hearts are dead already, such that they can't distinguish between the right and the wrong. It's so easy for them to kidnap human beings, even in the neighborhood. It's no more a news in our society today that neighbors will kidnap the children, sons and daughters of their fellow neighbors. And when they are looking for such children, they also partake in going around to search
for the missing
for the
child.
lost, for the missing child. But at the end of the day, we have seen such cases where it happens that it's actually the next door neighbor that kidnapped the child of his or her own neighbor. So it's becoming too alarming in our society, in Yoruba land, in Igbo land, all over the places, and it takes different forms. Just like I said the other time, sometimes they abducted the person and sell out the person as a whole human being like that. Some people engage in the work of building human abattoir, where they cut human beings into parts, and they take pride in selling such parts. They sell such parts and give them label. This is the amount for tongue, this is the amount for eye, this is the amount for limbs, this is the amount for lower limbs, like that. We hear different horrible stories about how human parts are sold in our society today. Similarly, people are kidnapped and they are used for rituals by the ritualists, by the herbalists. They use people as rituals. Sometimes they kill them and use them to make concoctions for some people to live long, for some people to attain extraordinary power. These and many others.
Speaking of the reasons why people sell human parts, or probably those who partake in it. Well, just before you go into that point, let me just tell our viewers, if you're just joining us, it's The Virtuous Woman. Join us after this short break for the rest of the program.
ولا تقربوا الزنا إنه كان فاحشة وساء سبيلا ولا تقتلوا النفس التي حرم الله إلا بالحق ومن قتل مظلوما فقد جعلنا لوليه سلطانا فلا يسرف في القتل إنه كان منصورا ولا تقربوا مال اليتيم إلا بالتي هي أحسن حتى يبلغ أشده وأوفوا بالعهد إن العهد كان مسؤولا وأوفوا الكيل إذا كلتم وزنوا بالقسطاس المستقيم ذلك خير وأحسن تأويلا ولا تقف ما ليس لك به علم إن السمع والبصر والفؤاد كل أولئك كان عنه مسؤولا ولا تمش في الأرض مرحا إنك لن تخرق الأرض ولن تبلغ الجبال طولا كل ذلك كان سيئه عند ربك مكروها.
Welcome back, and like I said, the topic for today is sales of human organs. You would have noticed that I'm not wearing a very smiling face today. It's because the topic is a very sensitive one. It appeals to myself, yourself, and every other person around you. If you are not affected directly, you're affected because you live in the same society. Hajia Kudra Mahmoud, it's been a time out with her, and she's been trying to tell us the Islamic rulings on all these things. Hajia, just before we went for a break the other time, I wanted to ask, there are some people who are probably watching. I know that in Islam, there are some crimes that you commit, or there are some things that are forbidden, that you know that it is not just the direct portrayal of such acts who is committing the crime, but also those who support. What I'm trying to ask is this: is it only the person who sells that Islam has forbidden? Because somebody can say, well, I'm not selling, I only help them to label the price, or I only help them to kidnap the people. So is it just the act of selling it that is forbidden in Islam, or every aspect of it?
Really, those who partake in such awful acts are also involved in sharing the money at the end of the day, because it's not an easy task, and because they have found themselves in it, they feel that's the only way they can make a living. Is because they are being sponsored in a way. They gain profit from the work, and they feel such profit cannot be realized from normal work. So they are also part of it. It's just like the case of alcohol, taking alcohol. When Prophet Islam said, it's all those who are involved in the business, maybe the people who are involved in carrying it, because the fact remains that is a criminal act. Is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbids, as we shall see in one of Quranic verses later, that it is something that must not be allowed in human society. It is like creating mischief on the surface of the earth. So why should we join others to create mischief, to create disorder on the surface of the earth? So if you are not directly involved, but you play one role or the other in bringing about the mischief, is tantamount to the same thing. Wallahu alam. But because Islam says we should not create mischief on the surface of the earth. So whether you are directly involved in killing, or you help to kidnap, or you help to put label on a human being, the price for which a human being will be sold, is still a form of mischief. It has no other name. Still on different ways by which people get involved in such acts. Okay. One other way is price negotiation. See, when human beings are kept in a place where they keep those who are abducted, we hear cases of people coming there to negotiate price, as if they are negotiating the price of goods in the market.
Or rams for salamit.
This is very horrible. My dear viewers at home, we have to really appeal to our souls. We have to talk to ourselves. There is no amount of poverty that should drive any right-thinking human being into such act, because it doesn't show any good sense. And as a human being, we are different from animals because we have intelligence, we have sense of reasoning, and we can be able to distinguish between right and wrong. But by the time somebody gets himself involved in this type of act, you see clearly that such a person cannot distinguish between right and wrong. Okay. So the other forms is making use of human beings as ingredients for rituals. Then there are some people that take delight in forcing their daughters into prostitution, and this Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forbidden outrightly in the Quran. In Surah An-Nur verse 33, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, do not force your daughters into prostitution if they desire righteousness, if they desire virtues. You should not force them into prostitution. Today, we see cases, we hear cases where girls are camped and they are forced into prostitution. The men are brought to sleep with them, and at the end of the day, they are pregnant and they produce babies. Because at the end of the day, these babies are used by the so-called ritualists that keep such girls
in the camp.
They use, there was a case in the paper recently of a ritualist that his own style is to use a day-old baby to make concoctions for his customers. So, and the method he adopted is to keep girls in a place and force them into prostitution, and at the end of the day, the result is pregnancy that brings about such babies, and these babies are used as concoctions for ritual acts. So people build baby factory for such evil acts. Then we also see cases of those who are blood suckers, whose source of power is to suck human blood. They have their godfathers, they have their ritual fathers that they go to and buy human blood from them. And it's by taking such human blood that they attain their own extraordinary power.
Okay, ma.
And prove themselves in the society.
Thank you for that aspect that you have just mentioned. We really appreciate it. On this note, we want to bring the program to an end, and I must say that you have really done a very great job. To all Nigerians, Muslims say no to killing or sales of human organs. It is against our religion, it is forbidden, and we will never support it. Haji Akudra Mahmoud, thank you very much, ma. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Join us same time, same station tomorrow for another session of the episode. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.
Today you become man and wife, fulfilling the sunnah as way of life. Today you'll find serenity. May your life be filled with sincerity. There is no happier day in your life than the virtue of being man and wife. There's joy without any end. Allah's blessing on this day does descend.